Hi.
You look so beautiful in paradise. No, there's not.
Hi.
But look, I got dressed for.
You look very nice.
No, but
Really?
I got dressed for Costa Rica
I like it. You
because
look,
I want to be in Costa Rica
you come visit.
because you live in Costa Rica. You're the coolest person.
I do. And my house is actually usually a great spot, but there's like so many construction workers there right now. It's like I'm like,
Because
"Ah,
you're still under construction.
like little things. But today everyone decided to come, like the screen guy, the door guy. And I'm like, Eric, I gotta go. I gotta go find somewhere else to go.
So
So
happy you found another place to go.
I found another spot. So here I am. Yeah. But I have, look, I even have a pretty juice.
So pretty. Oh my God, you live in Costa Rica for the year. Just for the record, everybody, she's coming back.
I'm coming back. You do look great.
It's because I really want to be in Costa Rica. Can we go for spring break just to visit you?
Yes, I think so. I think so. When is
Would-
your spring break? It just
Actually,
depends.
the 18th.
Yes. Yes, you can. Absolutely. We'll be
What?
back by then. We're back by then. Your spring
What are
break
you
is late.
doing?
We'll have Passover together, right?
I mean, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. I actually, there is
actually-
a friend of mine. A friend of mine is Jewish and British, and we're having Passover at her place the first night.
So I'm having Passover at her place.
Is that the 18th? No,
I
no.
think it's the 17th or
Well,
16th.
Yeah,
But
that's
the
later. That's
weekend.
late. Yeah. That's like the Friday night. That's the Friday
The
night.
Pache is that week.
It's that week. You could do it. It would be
I'm-
really fun.
Really though? You would
Yes.
stay in your house?
Yes, you could stay with us.
Stop.
Yeah, we don't have anyone coming that week. We're going to be away the week before, but then we come back.
Do you have
Yeah.
people visiting you all the time?
No, because our place just got done. So it was a whole journey. So
The whole journey. It's a different kind of journey. That's for a
Yeah.
different podcast.
exactly.
I
The
don't know
construction
anything
curious.
about-
Construction curious.
Construction curious. I love that. If that was a show, no one would do construction. Also, no one would ever do construction ever because construction fucking sucks.
Oh my gosh. It's been a joy. It's been a joy.
It's and by joy terrible.
Awful.
Oh.
Our contractor went bankrupt 90% into our project. So that was fun.
No. Bankrupt with your money.
Yeah. Just project over. Yeah.
Great.
So that was.
If you
that
guys
was
want a
good.
beautiful place to stay in Costa Rica, I know someone you can rent from.
Oh yeah, for sure. It is going to be. We're in the process of finding a long-term renter for next year, actually, for the year, because a lot of families come like we do for the year, but
No, they
there's
don't.
like, yeah. So, yeah, it's a whole thing.
So am I
there's-
going to do that? Am I going to rent from you? Is that what's going to happen? I'm dressed for it.
You're ready for it.
I'm ready.
Start coming for a few days and see what you think of it.
like over Passover.
Right, exactly. And then you can see what you think. You're not going to move to Costa Rica for a year. I don't know. I can't see that.
Why not? It's hard.
So it's hard. Well, yeah, there's challenges. Like you have to not mind. I don't know actually what your opinion is on like creepy crawlies, but you have to not mind creepy crawlies, which I do. I mind them. So
You don't still like you haven't been desensitized.
no. Mm-mm. I mean, I guess a little bit. Like if I see like a little, ant or something now, I don't like freak out. Like if I saw that in Brooklyn, I'd be like, oh my God,
Yeah,
like what's an ant doing? But like there are just like, you see a couple of ants in your house every single day. But like I'm talking when they like, they're just everywhere.
Like cockroaches.
No, like not everywhere, but like scorpions. Like you might just see a scorpion.
I don't want it, but I want it for a
Right?
week.
That's what I'm saying. Like for a
I'm-
short
I'm-
period of time, it's all good. It's all good for a short period of time. But for me, I just don't have the like toughness to like really live here. It's
Well,
what
you clearly do because you're living there.
well, that was just
You're
at
doing
this
it.
point.
That's the crazy part. That when you're like, oh, I don't have it in me to do exactly what I'm doing, except that I'm doing it. All right. So I wanted to bring you on, Jaime. Jamie's my friend from Ness's school, actually.
Okay.
I hesitate to say, why I hesitated to say friend, Jaime, is because we weren't friends beforehand. No. This is a good thing. It's like you were so firmly established in like the Brooklyn world. Like you were working during COVID. Like you were like relatively compared to the rest of us, like well adjusted. And I was not. I was having the hardest year of really maybe my life. And you were so kind. Your kid, Avery, and Ness are in the same grade and class. And we just like found a couple of pockets of time where it felt okay to hang out, which was like few and far between.
I know. We came to your place and I remember you were like, let's make robots. And
Yeah, we make robots.
and it was so much fun. And Avery was so petrified of you, and because you were so like singing and like you were so much fun, and she didn't talk right for the entire hour. I think that whole play date she did.
Well, I'm petrifying. I get that a lot.
But that's how she always is. Like I took her yesterday somewhere. She just like, she kind of is like mute for an hour and then she's good, you know, and then she opens up.
I think they call that slow to warm up, and that's okay.
That's how she is.
Really
She's slow.
okay. Pauses
better. That sounds better than me saying she's petrified.
You know what? I actually, yeah, totally. Because she's not petrified. She's like sussing out the situation.
Right. Exactly.
But in that time, and I'm only beelining it because I know we only have a half hour with you.
Yes.
But I wanted to bring you on because this podcast is for people who are curious about motherhood, all the different ways of getting to motherhood or not.
Yeah.
And being a mother, because I think there are different ways, right? Like taking a year in Costa Rica, which you did.
Yes.
Children is one way.
Yes.
One pretty adventurous way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, that was basically, I wouldn't have done it without my husband wanting to do it. Right. And I thought a year felt really long. Right. So we were building this house in Costa Rica that was going to be a vacation house to Airbnb it. And then when COVID hit and I was living with my in-laws for basically 6 months, I was like, oh, I think I can move to Costa Rica for the year. It suddenly felt like, oh, we can do this, you know? And like, what are we waiting for? Like, it's always something that we wanted to do, an adventure like that with our kids. And we thought like, there's never going to be the just right time for it. Right. So let's go do it now. And so we thought our house would be done and we'd be moving into a brand new house and like living life. But then it wasn't done. And so we've been living, I lived in at least 10 different houses / hotels between September and February.
Wow.
And like moved and and then also, I don't know how much you want me to get into this, but also like the first 6 weeks, my husband wasn't able to come down because he was like laid up in bed with a surgery that he had to have, an emergency surgery. So
it was just you in a foreign land.
More or less.
Trolleys, which we've established is not your thing.
Right. But right. So, but then I was like, okay, so for people who are curious about motherhood, so just as a proof that the job of the mother is never over, what did I do when I found out Eric couldn't come right away is I called my mom. And I was like, can you come to Costa Rica next week with me for a month? And she and my dad came and just stayed with me. Wow. And it was amazing. Like they just picked up like whatever they were doing. They had their plans, you know, and they just dropped everything and came. And I was very, very lucky. But like they don't like bugs even more than I don't like bugs. So it was kind of like, you know, they're like
Eric put you there and then like made you sort of like
we're all like living Eric's dream, but he's not there.
I want to rewind a bit.
Yes.
You know, there are so many, it's so funny because like, you know, you could come off as like such a conventional mom. She's like a regular everyday Brooklyn mom, teacher, reading specialist, and you are like exemplary in all of these areas and regular, normal, you know, friendly, kind.
Oh, thanks, Daniella.
It's true. And something that's exceptional about you beyond this adventure, you embarked on like the adventure of motherhood in a really unconventional way from the very beginning.
Yes.
You told me about your surrogacy and in a way that was so open. Of course, you were not the surrogate. You had your 2 children via surrogacy.
Correct.
And you were so open about it. And so I wouldn't call it nonchalant, but you know, this was your way. And I think more people need to hear about this way because
absolutely.
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know you could breastfeed actually.
Oh yeah.
It was really cool that you could actually make breast milk even if you didn't go through the pregnancy and the labor.
Right.
I would love for you to walk us through
Yeah.
maybe how you got to that decision to start, the surrogacy process.
Sure.
Because that I'm sure was a journey
Yeah.
in itself.
It was a journey. It was
Yeah,
a
tell
journey.
me.
So I was in my early 30s and ready to have children. And at the time, I never had regular periods. So it was just like, oh, like I knew something was maybe up. So then when we just tried naturally, we were unsuccessful. So, we went to the doctor, you went to a specialist, we were prescribed Clomid, as many women are, so that they could regulate their periods. And that worked great. I got pregnant very quickly. I was really excited. I was like, yes. And had several early miscarriages. So I kept taking Clomid, having early miscarriages. Some of them, I had gone to the doctor and we would, see the heartbeat and then I would miscarry. And some were just positives on a pregnancy test. So it was this roller coaster, right, for a while of just like, what's going on? We're going to have a baby and not. And then when we realized that, then they cleaned me out. That was like my first intervention. They were like, all right, let's do this. I forgot what it was called, like a hysteroscopy or something like that. I actually wrote all these steps down. So I think it was called, I don't want to say get the science. Yeah, I think hysteroscopy. That was in 2010. And that was to kind of like, I don't know, clear out your tubes and everything. So we did this, fine. And I kept getting pregnant and I kept losing the baby. In total, I think it was 9 times that happened.
Wow. And this is all while we're working with children, right?
I was always, I was a teacher. I was a classroom teacher. So the way that it would work, if anyone who's listening knows this, but often you go to these clinics really early in the morning. So I live in Brooklyn and I was going to NYU. And so I would, wake up at, dark 30, get on the train to go take the express bus to NYU and then try to be teaching by 8 a.m. And so it was really a really challenging period. And
How
so
many years did it last?
the whole process from when we first started trying until when Gavin was finally born was 3 years and 9 months.
Wow.
So after sort of the traditional, then we tried IVF, went to the IVF doctor and did that and still miscarry. So which was, obviously a very challenging experience because it's a major surgery. And then we saw another specialist, like the third specialist, who suggested this thing called, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, which was like, okay, is there a problem with the embryo? And so then we did another round of IVF with that. And then still my body would react. And meanwhile, I'm going to this doctor on the Upper East Side, and I have to go and do infusions every few weeks to suppress my natural killer cells. And I'm taking steroids in order to strengthen something else. And it was like, I was on so many different kinds of drugs in order to make this, and all kinds of shots, the whole thing. And then yes,
killer cells, right? You once told me about this, you never get sick, right? You're actually a very healthy person.
I'm really healthy. I like to think that it's because I have these really strong natural killer cells, because eventually in my final pregnancy that we got the farthest, which was still not even ever past the first trimester, I had just gone in a few days before for this treatment that's supposed to suppress my natural killer cells, but we got the results and they still were quite high. So I just like to think I'm a superhero. It's really the only way that I can get through this is I like to feel.
What are natural killer cells? What are they?
I think it kills infections and things like that in your body.
My God. And if you've ever been pregnant, for anyone listening, it really is a parasitic experience.
Yeah.
The cells that are growing in the body, you've been pregnant numerous times, Jaime.
Yes.
It really feels like they're sucking the life out of you because they are.
Right. Exactly.
Except that you can replenish for the most part, but the natural killer cells were like, no, actually, I like Jaime more. Boom.
Yeah. I feel like that's what kept happening. I like to tell myself that. But what it felt like during this time was that, because I was a runner before and I ran half marathons all over the country, that was my thing. And I stopped doing that and I changed my diet and everything when I was trying, but I felt like I was I was always at mile 6, right? Like I was always at the hardest part of the race, like over and over and over again.
Mm.
It was the hardest time of my life. There's no doubt about that. Like it was challenging on my marriage, right? It was challenging on my body, like that, everything.
Financially even, right?
Financially, right. I mean, and I was like lucky to be able to get all of these treatments, right? And, be able to do that, but it still was a huge burden. And then, I was also 33, 34, 35. What's happening around me? Like all of my friends are getting pregnant and having babies, right? And they're like accidentally getting pregnant. And I'm just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
And so, I was like, I'm going to be such a good parent. I am, going to love every second of it.
You are. What's really interesting is that I found, I didn't find her. I happened upon one of your friends in the neighborhood. I texted
yeah.
and we were like, she's such a good mom. Like, what is that? And I remembered this story. And I think that we had another guest, Jenny Greenstein, who was on the podcast, who has had her children via IVF.
Yeah.
She's in a same-sex marriage. And she just looked me square in the eyes and was like, I worked really hard to get these babies, and I have the perspective to prove it. And I
100%.
really thought of you in those moments, because your friend was like shit can be hitting the fan, and she's just kind of like okay with it. What is that? And I know what that is. That's perspective. That's what that is.
Right. So then finally, it was so interesting because we went to this doctor, and I don't know if I, can say his name or not on here. But he was
kind of helpful to the people listening.
I think it was. His name is Dr. Grassi. Dr. Grassi, Jaime Grassi. He was incredible. And I'm sorry. Let me go. Not Dr. Grassi in a second. Hold on.
She's checking her notes just in case anyone's wondering what we're holding for.
Griffo. I'm sorry, Dr. Griffo. Griffo. Another GR, right? Dr. Griffo was incredible because he was actually our specialist, let us go through all of these processes. And then when they failed, he was like, have you considered using a gestational carrier, which is a surrogate? Okay. And he talked us through the whole process, and we didn't even find out till later that that's actually how his children were born. Just like the ultimate professional. He was really great. So then, then he connected us with a lawyer, and then it gets really complicated because at the time, and I don't know what the laws are now, but it was
in New York.
Not legal in New York. And so it also, our lawyer was in New Jersey, but it wasn't legal in New Jersey either. So there were this list of states, and we had to decide, what our criteria was, kind of like you would on, a dating website, right? For what but really it's, it was my egg, my husband's sperm, but like, who do you want to carry your baby? And we were just like, we want them to be kind and healthy, like, they ask you all kinds of questions about religion and race and everything. And to us, we were like, we just want them to be kind and healthy. And so we found this woman who was incredible, and she lived in Georgia. And so she agreed to be our gestational carrier, and she was phenomenal. She had 2 kids of her own. She always had easy pregnancies. She had always wanted to do this for somebody. And it felt like a really nice relationship that we were entering into. And so everything went well. The pregnancy was uneventful. We were so excited to finally, have our baby coming, and we were making plans because I'm a planner. I was like, okay, this is going to be
notes for this conversation.
It was over Christmas break. Gavin was coming in March, and I was like, okay, we're going to, I have notes for this conversation. I was going to I had a go bag. I'm like, this is what's going to be in a go bag. Like, what do we need? We need wipes. Like, I had no idea what it was to be a mother, I was like, wanted to have everything.
Having worked with children your entire life.
I had no idea what it was like.
None of us know. This is why we have this podcast. Yeah.
Right. No idea. So I remember asking my friends about like wipes. I was like, do I need wipes? And it was like very good. It's like a whole, but now I'm like, I have wipes all the time. Of course, you should always bring wipes. ABW. I tell Eric whenever we leave the house.
Always bring wipes.
Always bring wipes. So then he's supposed to be born in March. We're figuring out our go bag over Christmas. And on January 1st, we're about to get on an airplane to come back to New York from Florida. And it's 7 a.m. and we get a phone call from the carrier. And she would never call me. Like she would, I would usually call her. That was just kind of how our relationship worked. And I thought it was weird that she was calling me on New Year's Day at 7 o'clock. when we just talked, like the 2 days before when she had her ultrasound. It turned out she was going into labor 9 weeks early.
Wow.
And so she's like, so I'm on my way to the hospital. And I was like, me too. I'm on my way to the hospital too. And so instead of flying back to New York in January, I flew to Atlanta, Georgia, went straight to the hospital. But before I got there, I'm in the airplane, and this was 2014, first day of 2014, January 1st.
Mhm.
And Gavin was born when we were in the airplane. And it was the first time I ever used Wi-Fi calling, because I was like, this seems like an expense I need to use right now. My son's about to be born. I think
Was
we're
it
gonna
FaceTime or was it just a call?
No, it's just the call, but it was 2014. Things have changed a lot, It was
Oh my
like, I don't know, $5.99. I never would splurge, on the airplane. So, but I did. And thankfully I did, because I get this photo of Gavin I also called my friend who lived in Georgia, and it was like New Year's Day. I was like, quick, drive to the hospital. My son's about to be born. But I want to make sure no one takes him away, just like make sure no one takes him away. And I mean, I had trust in my carrier, but crazy things happen in this world. And so I was worried about everything on that airplane, right? Like, why is he coming so early? The ultrasound said he was going to be 3 pounds and 11 ounces. He was going to be tiny, like he wasn't going to be healthy. Like, I was so worried. And then I get this picture at 10:07 a.m. as I'm in the air of this perfect little baby. He was perfect. He was 4 pounds, 4 ounces.
He's like an okay size.
Yes, he was the loudest baby in the NICU by far. I mean, by far. I was like, I think it's good. Good. He's my kid. He's my kid.
Yeah.
And so then I basically moved into the Hampton Inn that was sort of right next to the hospital for the next 6 weeks, as he just had to grow. And as you alluded to earlier,
there as well, was she okay?
So she was okay. So she was obviously worried as well, but once she knew the baby was healthy, she was fine. And then after she recovered, because she had a C-section, so she was in the hospital for a few days, which, by the way, the hospital care, all of that, I think is so much better in where we were in Georgia versus a lot of the city place, because it's so many less people.
Yeah, no doubt.
So she was great. So she did great. She went home after a few days. And then I think a couple of weeks later, she came back to visit, when he was a little bit stronger, and she held him, and it was all good. Yeah.
What about Eric?
Eric, what did he think of Gavin?
What do you think of him? When did he meet him?
He met him that same day. So we met him that same day.
I didn't realize it was the two of you.
We all flew back. We flew together, the two of us, and he stayed for a week. And at the time he was working in Midtown. So he then was kind of just basically going back and forth. On the weekends he came to Georgia, and then during the week he would be in New York. Once we were in the routine and we knew that Gavin was going to be there for like over a month, we realized we can't all stay. This was before everyone was working remotely, right? So totally different worlds. But I had a job, as you alluded to earlier, because earlier in the pregnancy, I'd heard about inducing lactation, which felt really important to me. So I thought, okay, let me try to do this. So I met with a specialist, and
Dr. Gavin, who was my specialist also.
Yes, that's right. Dr. Gavin, she was amazing.
She is
yeah. And so she gave me, it was more hormones, right? And so the,
like you don't have enough.
And also a lot of herbs, like, that one that makes you smell like maple syrup. Was one.
Fenugreek and go through. Yes. There were others, but those were the two most helpful for me.
Right. So I was on.
And then she also gave me domperidone, which is
yes.
I hope it's okay that I say that, because you can only get it in Canada.
Correct. Exactly.
But she's an angel on earth.
Amazing.
And you knew that you could induce lactation even though you didn't go through pregnancy and labor. I did not know this.
Yes. I wasn't the first person that she had done this with. I wasn't like her guinea pig. So then but the problem was that Gavin came too early. So I didn't really finish the whole process. Was what you're supposed to do is a few weeks before the baby is born, you're supposed to start pumping all through the night to kind of get you, every 3 hours, you wake up and you pump.
Yeah. So pumping, how would you describe pumping for the listener who doesn't know what pumping is?
Yes. So pumping is very strange experience. It's a very strange experience. I mean, you have to hook yourself up, to this contraption, and it's basically, you feel like a cow, right? You feel like
Yeah.
a cow who's getting milked.
So
And
this machine actually
it's a
like sucks
machine
on your
like
nipples,
squeeze this is squeezing your nipple, right? Exactly. Like, and
and
it
then
hurts
you
a
like
lot at first. Like
so you
you're like,
can bottle milk up.
exactly. And so a lot of times moms will do this, like working moms will do this if they're, they'll pump during the day once, or maybe, if they go to a work trip, they might pump for a couple of days. So I was doing this, instead of breastfeeding for, that was the, for the first couple of weeks, because Gavin was too little to be able to drink from the breast directly. He was getting food through his nose, actually, which is crazy. I'd
Yeah,
been
this
through a
happens
tube
a lot. This happens a lot with premature babies.
preemies.
They don't
Exactly.
necessarily have the muscle strength to suck on the
Right.
nipple to really
Exactly.
pull milk from the breast. And the more saliva, the more like appropriate sucking, the more the breast knows, okay, cool. We need to make this kind of milk at this time. This is what, this is what his body needs. And anyway, you can mimic that through the pump to the best of your ability.
Right. So we did the pump, and then also, I did like a spray of oxytocin, which is the love hormone. So every time before I would pump, I would spray and look at a picture of him, or look at a picture of your family or something. It's supposed to, if you have those like feelings of love, you actually are able to produce more milk.
Fun fact, oxytocin is also the hormone that gets released every time you have a contraction in labor.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So basically I felt like really like I was actually doing something that was purposeful, which, that's very important to me, right? I don't like to be idle. So I was like, I'm doing it. I'm feeding my baby, even though it was sort of like basically every 3 hours I was allowed to visit him in the hospital. So I would visit him in the hospital. I would come back to the hotel room. I would do the whole oxytocin pump, everything. And I would collect this liquid gold and then bring it back for his next feeding. And so that's what I did. That was my existence for 6 weeks.
And you couldn't hold him, or were you able to hold him?
So I was able to hold him the first couple of weeks, because we didn't have our flu shots yet. Like I had to wear a mask. So it's actually, but I did the whole like skin to skin, and I would hold him, because that, for those who are curious, it's supposed to be really good for the baby to grow, for preemies, right? To be able to have that skin to skin contact. And Eric did the same thing, he would, take off the buttons on his shirt or whatever, and he would hold the baby skin to skin, because that is supposed to be really helpful.
It's helpful even for fully, grown people. It turns out. And
hugging is good.
All
hugging.
ages, that skin to skin. It uses a lot of like calm down hormones, which of course is where growth and
right. Exactly. Yeah. So it was actually 5.5 weeks that he was in the hospital, and then we were able to bring him home, and so that was the end of that crazy journey.
Well, the beginning, really, right?
Well, exactly. So I was like, okay, well, so now that half marathon's done, right? I'm like, okay, so now I'm in this new one called parenthood, and this is like a marathon. This one just never ends.
That one, I mean, we're still at it. Your mother's still at it, right? She still gets calls like, hi, I'm stuck in Costa Rica alone with 2 children and no house. Please come help me. And she
exactly. And she came in a second. I mean, talk about modeling, so I'm very, very grateful. Yeah.
When you met Gavin, was it what you expected, or did you have any moments where you were like, oh, I might not have the bond that I wanted, and was the breastfeeding, was the importance of breastfeeding for you part of you bonding with the baby, knowing,
So I wanted to breastfeed so that I could get him for all the benefits of breastfeeding, right? That I had heard about, right? The bonding, the health of the baby and everything else. I really prefer to do things naturally. So that to me felt really good. It felt like a good match for me. But to really be honest, and this is like, no, I don't mean to offend you or anything, but the question that you just asked is not even something that crossed my mind, because I had been through so much by that point. I was just so happy to have my baby.
Yes.
So it's like that, your perspective is different than mine, because I had been through, almost 4 years
you had been
hell.
through pregnancy. I actually know that. I know that, Jaime, but I do know that that's a question for the audience.
Of course, 100%.
And I also respect where you're coming from.
and I mourned that. Like I did that, right? Like with
Oh
each
yeah.
of my pregnancies, I had a chance to really mourn that and think, okay, I'm never going to be pregnant. Like I'm never going to have a kid. And then when I was able to have a kid, right, which was really the end goal, the other parts, I was just like, it's okay, you know?
Yeah, I think also people have that sort of question when it comes to IVF or C-section,
Right.
or we have this sort of idea, or adoption or foster. I think we have this idea where like if a mother is not in a in the most ideal circumstances, I was going to actually poke fun at water birth, and honestly, it's not funny. That's a beautiful way to bring a child into the world too.
Right.
But
Right.
I think like the whole point
Mhm.
is that, like there are many, many ways to be a mother, and that bond is
Mhm.
so strong.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is so strong that the details are so meaningless.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
only reason
It
why
didn't matter to me at all. It didn't matter, you know? It was just like I had my baby, right? And that was it. So and he was healthy. Like I was just like so worried that he was going to be on a ventilator or,
he
you know, have
wasn't.
all of these other concerns. No, I mean, he was really healthy. So I was so relieved, I think
Yeah.
is the word to describe it. And to finally just have my baby, you know, and then even though we weren't, you know, I couldn't bring him home yet. I knew he was in such good hands. I have to just mention the NICU nurses are like angels on earth. Seriously, those women, I was there every 3 hours because I had the means to be able to do that. There were most of the babies didn't get visitors.
Most of the babies didn't get visitors. Why?
Well, a lot of the women in this hospital, because it, you know, it was like south of Atlanta, but it really would be any hospital, live far away, right? And this is something that we take for granted living in a city, you know, is it, and maybe they didn't have access to transportation or their own car.
Yeah.
And so these NICU nurses, I would watch them, right, would pick up and hold these babies and love them, you know, just so, all the time, because they didn't have a parent coming to do that because they couldn't, right? Like, so
Have you seen those images of those babies born via surrogacy in the Ukraine,
I did. Yeah.
taken care of by these
Mhm.
amazing nurses in the NICU?
I did read that article. That was heartbreaking.
And
Yeah.
some of them did actually get to their parents.
Yeah.
I didn't track the whole
I
story.
hope so. Yeah.
Those
I hope
NICU,
so.
those NICU nurses, some of them had the option of leaving, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't. They
Right.
would, and they
They,
didn't.
right.
They
I know. I
chose
mean, like, yeah. I mean, I'm a teacher and people are always like, oh, teacher is like such a great job. Like what you do is so important. And I'm like, thank you. You know, and I feel really good about doing it. But, and then I see these NICU nurses and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, like
I felt the
this.
same way about the nurses in the delivery room also.
Yeah.
I mean, these women are incredible.
Incredible. They're just cut from a different cloth. I don't know what it is, but they have something inside of them that, and we're just lucky to have them.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Although
Yeah.
I will say that you're cut from a different cloth too, in Costa Rica.
So yeah, here I am. Yeah, in Costa Rica.
I want to talk about Avery, who's
Yeah.
Ness's
Yeah.
friend, but we are at time, which is crazy.
Yes, I know. It went fast.
But more important than the details, as we said, right? More important
Mhm.
than that, I'm wondering if, as we wrap up, um, if if you had something to say to a person who was curious about surrogacy, and a person who was just on this journey, like,
Yeah.
like if you could close your eyes and I'm not here and you're just talking to that girl,
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
might you say?
The first thing that comes to my mind is just don't give up. Okay? There were times when I was ready to give up and, you know, thinking we should, you know, find a different route, like do something different. And I think adoption is beautiful, but that just was never our plan. That wasn't what we wanted to do. Like we wanted to have our own children. And I was ready to give up, right? And it took the partnership with my husband and I. Like I couldn't have done this alone. That's just me, right? But it took us together. And so there were moments when it was really dark, like I had mentioned, like it was dark for me. in some moments and it was dark for Eric in other moments. And we just really had to support each other, right? Because one of us was ready to give up. And then the other one had to be like, no, we can do this, like, and coach the other one.
Yeah.
And so I hope that for that you have the a partnership or support that you would need so that you can continue on in this journey, because just, you know, it's possible.
And it's worth it. It seems, I mean,
It's 100% worth it.
Really
100%.
freaking cute.
Oh,
They're cute.
yeah.
They're kind.
Yes.
They're slow to warm up, and you know, I'm into that positive.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to share the story of Gavin, of Gavin's birth. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. And,
I'm so
you know,
glad you want to talk about it.
because, you know, I did feel very alone during the process. And I hope that someone can hear the story and feel like you're not alone going through this.
So how old is
Yeah.
Gavin now?
8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. He's a big kid. He's in 2nd grade. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's,
there's more. Maybe we can come back actually and just talk about Avery and
yes.
Yeah, because
I would love to talk about her too.
She's a special kid in my life, at least.
She is. Oh, thank you.
She was also born via surrogacy. And
Yes.
yeah, I never want to let you go, but maybe I'll just see you over Passover then.
That sounds perfect. I
You
love
think I
it.
should come?
I do. We'll have to make those plans. I think that it'd be really fun.
Okay, I can't wait.
Okay. Thanks, Daniella. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.